it's an open question for with increasing demand for HVACR system for consumers as the heat is rising. What are your recommendations for implementing energy efficient technologies? To start with, I would like to hear from Mr. Jitendra.
Okay, so I've been witnessing unregulated market now to a highly regulated market, not within India, but across the world. And your question is, what are the requirements to introduce technologies? Okay.
Right.
With the global supply chain and open economies, all the technologies are available everywhere. It is no exception. The barriers really will be the servicing sector for adopting the technology. Otherwise, I don't see any barriers that is there for adopting technology. The two important points that are there is consumption of energy and affordability of air conditioning, because air conditioning brings in productivity. It boosts economy. It is an essential part of many processes in manufacturing. So chip manufacturing requires a controlled temperature. Pharmaceutical requires. Operation of data centers required. So with this, the technologies that will be had to be integrated and overlap is what we should see. Otherwise, all the available technology in one form or other are there, which is either the refrigerants or the mechanical engineering related. My own opinion is that the topic I spoke is for changing the behavior. Whether AI will help, definitely yes. Whether apps which will guide the consumer, whether they will help, yes, they will help. Whether an app which will tell that before and after a servicing, is there a difference? Or whether it will give advanced intimation that you require service. Not today's servicing is basically time-based. It should be real-time performance-based of the equipment or the efficiency of the equipment. Whether it will help in allowing you to know what latest equipments are available and when you should be able to get rid of your older non-performing asset. So AI, with this all will be AI. You can call it machine learning, you can call anything, but this will help. Otherwise, like Madhusudan said, these are what he spoke was nothing different. It existed for ages. It existed for ages within India. If you go to Ladakh, all the roofs are insulated using wood. If you come down to Rajasthan, and if you go to any of these big places, Jaisalmer, you know that architecture is helping. If you go to our old temples, then there is a radiant cooling. So how do we integrate and overlap is very important. If you look at an attire, right from Ladakh, right down up to Kerala and Tamil Nadu, it is different. And it is different because it is made suitable for that ambient conditions, be it humidity or be it anything. One of the flaws, I'm coming to a technical aspect. One of the flaws, what I see is whether the high efficiency individual systems or the standalone systems using variable speed technologies, when the compressor operates at a very low RPM or RPS, whether it is giving the required comfort in terms of controlling the humidity. And if that is not happening, it is all likely that the behavior will change to keep the temperatures lower. We saw in Madhusudan again speaking and telling us that a lot of technology is available for reducing the load, but in hot and humid climates, you really want to control is the latent load, which is the humidity. So whether there will be an integration of certain chemicals which will absorb the humidity and it can get regenerated with the heat of the air conditioner that is available. These are some of the things which we should look into. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Jiten, for sharing the various points. Coming to you, Mr. Nabil, as a standard organization, how do you see and what would you recommend for implementing energy efficient technologies?
Thank you. Yeah, based on experience in other countries, there are technologies and there are also energy saving practices. So to encourage more energy saving practices, we have to look at, for example, utility cost. In some countries, the utility cost is cheap. So the end users or consumers, they don't see immediate benefits from buying a more expensive, more efficient technology. So they end up buying the basic or entry level in the market. So I have seen some utility companies and government, they give incentives, whether it's by giving tax back or by giving tax breaks or giving actual money incentives for consumers to buy more energy efficient product. Because like Jitendra said, the technology is there. I mean, starting from the lowest efficient product, like a window unit is the least efficient product, which consumes more than 2 kWs per ton, all the way to going to variable speed, VRF, water-cooled chillers, evaporative cooling, and district cooling now, which is becoming a trend. The technologies are there, but it's also we have to do with practices as well. We have to encourage training individuals on how to install, maintain, and service equipment, because once you install a unit, the efficiency start degrading from day one. So if you don't do proper installation, maintenance, and service, the efficiency will start degrading, and what the consulting engineers has designed will not be met afterwards. So there are a lot of factors, not just technology, it's practices and other things.
So Gopal Krishna, one point I would like to come in,
Yes,
which is very dear to me. If you see climate conditions of India, 60% of the population resides in hot and dry and composite. Composite means a large portion is dry climate. Of course, it gets humid. Delhi gets humid, but dry. And wherein evaporative cooling techniques or technologies will be very, very efficient. But not enough innovation is happening there to reduce the consumption of water. Not innovation is happening to ensure that the humidity in the area or not in the space which is to be controlled gets controlled. Otherwise, if you look at it, it is a very basic technology, consumes, I would say, 10% to 15% of the energy, but we have to address some issues. And I feel it has to be a combination of all the technologies that should give cooling comfort. Thank you. Sorry for this intervention.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for adding to Mr. Nabil's. Mr. Nabil was mentioning about the technologies and incentives. What are your views, Mr. Madhusudan?
As everybody has said, the technologies have existed for decades. I mean, for God's sake, the air conditioning, the vapor compression cycle that we use is more than 100 years old, almost 150 years old, right? I think patent was in 1802 or something, right? So the technologies have been there, right? Most of the time, what we find are barriers in the market. I don't think these are technical barriers. And if you just look at how much, I mean, how many decades it has taken VRV or VRF to become mainstream, you can understand how much inertia is there in the market. And one of the reasons for this is, structures once built are difficult to change, right? These structures, I mean, this is not like a piece of code that you can go undo and write a new code or apply a patch, right? While AI technologies allow that, but a lot of technologies once implemented have a certain cost and a certain inertia to change. But what can people do? Let me focus mostly on residential, because I guess that's where you wanted to focus, the answer to be focused on. I'll divide that into two parts. Let's say people have individual residences. They have lots of options in terms of passive design, building orientation. You have a lot of freedom to design the way you want to design, or have shading devices. So I would say focus more on passive, and then whatever is remaining, put an active system, even if it's a simple 5-star AC. I think that's the most economical and sensible way to move forward. But where we need to really focus would be these high rises, because more and more of India will start living in these high rises. And in high rises, we do not, as residents of these high rises, tenants or owners, hardly have any say in how it is built, how it is cooled, right? So in that, I would say if it's a simple business model change that can be done, where builders, so let me illustrate with an example. Let's say there's an apartment building, having 300 apartments, flats, right? Each, let's say, has 10 towns, 3 BHK, 2 towns in each room, living, dining, 10 towns. And so for 300 apartments, you're putting a capacity of around 3,000 tons. And therefore, a transformer size of, just for HVAC, a 3 megawatt at least, right? But we all know that at an annual or even a peak average will not be more than maybe 4 tons per apartment, right? So we can actually get away with just installation of, get away with just 1,000 tons, and they can, instead of unitary units, when a centralized system is put, it can be managed in a much, much more efficient way. It can be upgraded easily, right? Tomorrow, 5 years down the line, 6 years down. So a simple act of moving from these unitary units, right, to centralized units, centralized cooling, which is very common in, where in MENA region, where Nabil is from, right? I mean, the older buildings were like that, but the newer ones in the JLT, I mean, JLT and all, it's centralized cooling. So just moving that with existing technologies itself would be a huge gain in energy efficiency, in my opinion, right? What needs to be cracked is a business model where the dichotomy between the builder saying, hey, how am I going to benefit and why should I put this money upfront, whereas its tenant is going to, enjoy this, is something that needs to be solved. It's not an unsolvable problem. It has been solved in other countries, right next to us. And if we can move to such this thing, that itself can, in my opinion, at least bring down the energy consumption in high-rise residential buildings, at least by 50%, right? I mean, doing nothing, right? So anything, any policy or any market push to, enable such models, either by the developer or a service provider, like we provide something as cooling as a service, either a service provider or builder. If they can do that, I think that simple step can ensure that a lot of it can be gained. And just one point, and if such model comes in, and let's say 5 years down, 10 years down the line, you have to upgrade your energy efficiency as a nation. All the government has to do is crack a whip on people who are running these plants and say, hey, do this, otherwise you lose your license or whatever, right? Otherwise, instead of trying to create awareness in 1.4 billion people for energy efficiency, right? All you need is these 20, 30, 40 companies which are running these plants and say, hey, why don't you just like PAT scheme, which was there for industries. I think this is what I think will give us a lot of reduction in energy for air conditioning, especially in high rises.
Thank you, Mr. Madhusudan, for sharing the insights within example of high rise. Mr. Sharad, he was focusing on high rise, and high rise is becoming the trend. So what are your views about recommending the energy efficient technologies?
Everybody is right, but I want to start from the beginning. So see, let's start from the 2TR. Suppose you have like 100 square feet room, and that is on your southwest, and the window is like 50 square feet. And you go to the market and you go to showroom, and he will say, how much is your area? The person will say it is 100 square feet. The salesperson or the service provider will simply say, sir, you need only 1 TR chiller, AC. That's it. But the basic concept is missing out here. I mean, you have to design those machines. I mean, it is not necessary that you will be requiring 1 TR, because that is in the southwest, that is absorbing more heat. It will be required 1.2, 1.3 TR, or maybe 1.5. Suppose it is on a roof or something. How is it? So you have to be expert or be precise on the design first. Whether it is high rise or a single room, if you are not designing that area in a proper manner, the most efficient solution will also go in vain. So having said that, the second part is like the adoption of that technology. Like people are using 3-star AC, 5-star. The high-rise building, of course, they should go. I mean, everybody is pushing that way, that they should go for the central system. That one day or another, if somebody finds that yes, this system is not giving the comfort to us in a capex or opex manner, maybe we can change it. So the central system will always work and will always be better than the unitary product. But everybody might not, afford, considering the Indian market. So we can provide a right sustainable solution with the right design to the customer. Having said that, it will save more electricity. The purpose of every business model should be that we should save more OPEX. CapEx can be a one time, because today if you are investing 1 rupee or 100 rupee, next year it will be, in a augmented value of 8%, 6 to 8%, considering the inflation and everything. So the capex will be the one time, but the opex, that is going to hit you again and again. So the basic design, that should be better, that should be best. And then the implementation of that design with the current trend or current innovative product, that is very important. And that is imperative as well, considering you are providing multiple solution to the customer. So yes, I mean, in a single line, I would definitely propose every customer to go for the solution which will give you more sustainability with respect to power saving. Don't look at the first cost, look at the OPEX. That will give you more saving or more happiness when you are paying the electricity bill.
Thank you, Mr. Sharad, for sharing the opinions. As OPEX has to be keep in mind, and that is designing is also very necessary. Coming to Mr. Nabil, you were talking about standards covering all the HVAC aspects, as well as cooling, plastic, and other things. And of course, the regulation and certificates do help in driving adoption of energy efficient technologies by establishing standards like you were mentioning, efficiency, safety, environmental considerations. So how awareness can be generated as temperatures are rising everywhere globally?
Awareness is, I think, the job of everyone, including not just governments and regulatory bodies, but also companies, engineers, general population. In recent years, these topics have become very popular. For example, now when you try to purchase a ticket, they tell you this ticket has less CO2 emission than this one. So one of the things that we're doing in AHRI is we're establishing standards that calculates carbon emission for different equipments, which will be essential in the future, because in the future, each government or country will have a cap of how much carbon they can produce, and they have to limit it. And if they don't limit it, they have to buy carbon credit from other countries that has credits or etc. So we are creating calculating carbon emissions for embedded carbon, which means how much carbon have you invested to produce this technology or product, whether including shipping, did you ship it from India, China, local shipping? How much power did you use to, form the material and transport it? And also how much operational carbon have you produced? So these standards, I think, once they become available, which should be by 2025-26, it will help the consumer, the cautious consumers, and the consumers that care about, our environment and the earth, to select the product that produces less carbon, which means it would consume also lesser electricity. One quick thing I want to comment on what Mr. Rapold said about high rises, which is very interesting subject, is district cooling is becoming a trend. So having, like he said, supplying cooling for an entire high rise or a district can be much more efficient in terms of power consumption. So we see district cooling in the UAE is basically the #1 in the world, basically being very popular here. And it's becoming very popular also in other countries. So it's evolving into becoming a utility, which means you develop a utility company that provide cold water to buildings so they can run it into coils and fans and cool their buildings. So instead of buying your own air conditioner, you can get from a utility company cold or hot water to heat or cool your building, which makes it almost half as or double the efficiency of a conventional system. Thank you.
That's a very fabulous idea, Mr. Nabil. And does the aspects of high rise also, Mr. Mansusan, he was just mentioning about the district cooling aspects that can be done in the high rises building. So what strategies are there to raise awareness about such practices for HVAC systems?
I have a limited sphere of influence, but compared to HRI, but here's what my thoughts are. Okay. Today, everybody, all of us are selling sustainable or energy efficient cooling at a premium, right? Even Sharad was saying that people should focus more on OPEX, not as pay a little bit more, right? But we all know that you sell anything at a premium, right? You're always going to only serve a niche, right? And my thought is, if we can provide sustainable and energy efficient cooling at a discount, which means at a lower price than conventional cooling, right? Then you will have more adoption, right? And it's possible. How is it possible? Because all of us are saying the total cost of ownership is lower, right? And if you do it in the manner where people have to pay only monthly subscription, they will end up paying less per month than they would otherwise pay, with almost no upfront cost, just like it is in district cooling system, right? So more than technological innovation, my thought is that there are more business model innovation that our industry, that HVAC industry needs, where the existing technologies, how can they be packaged in a manner that will deliver the cooling at a lower cost so that people buy it, right? The moment, if just 10% of the people adopt sustainable cooling, it is not going to help even those 10%, right? Unless you have the entire market adopt sustainable cooling. Right? And the biggest driver of adoption is price point. And that is what has happened in places like UAE and Qatar and other places where district cooling is driving adoption of sustainable cooling. Now, we, of course, do not have that sort of development that where in, let's say, Dubai, they create a media city or an education city, and district cooling is possible. Wherever possible, that should be done, like it has been done in Gift City in Ahmedabad. One of the things that one of the alternatives that we are trying is called a miniature version of that is called cooling as a service, where you can provide the same service at a building level. So, but this requires, investment and policy from a policy push from the, government too. But what I'm bottom line is price point will drive adoption of sustainable and energy efficient cooling in tropical countries, especially, I mean, if you take out, high income countries like in Gulf, you have an entire, list of countries like Indonesia, India, Philippines, Mexico, Brazil, which are where 80% of the air conditioning systems are going to be sold in next 25 years. And if you do not offer sustainable cooling at a lower price point, they are going to choose unsustainable cooling because that is at a lower price. So business model innovation to get these technologies to people who need to adopt this is what I would say is critical. And these efforts are being made in the market, but I think the adoption will take time. And any policy push, any blended finance, which will lower the risk of such models being adopted, would be a great help in pushing such models.
Thank you, Mr. Madhusudan, for sharing your views. And adoption, yes, that has to be in the positive direction. Coming to Mr. Jitendra, you were talking about the ratings and other things. Only 5-star are having 15% or something. You talked about temperature setting also. And Mr. Nabil was mentioning some incentives. So my question to you is, with the adoption of energy efficient technologies, how can behavioral incentives be incorporated to encourage efficient use of HVAC systems?
Behavioral is it is to be the customer. Now this customer is not necessarily technical, but he understands the concept of savings. He understands the concept of money. So whatever in a very simplistic way and to an extent a non-technical way, you make him feel, and he gets a feeling that by doing so, I have saved the money. That will drive his behavior. But as a first step, in a simple awareness program should be done. Simple tips should be given, which today are non-existing. Something is done by BE saying that before buying AC, you can do a comparison. But these are based on certain assumptions. Okay. The who drives his decision should be seen when he's buying an air conditioner. Is it the last point salesperson, or is it his own learning or his own knowledge across the life cycle? I'm saying of the product. So making him aware, use different ways, crossing the information that is, or giving information more than what it is being given by the manufacturers themselves or BE themselves will help. Just to add also on the high-rise buildings and also on the urbanization, urbanization gets into what we call as heat islands, specifically the high-rise buildings, wherein the temperature as measured and declared by meteorological department is different. And the high-rise buildings will have higher because they absorb a lot of heat. One. Second is the use of air conditioners, one above the other. I'm talking the conventional air conditioner like room AC, will cause heat stack effect. That means the hot air from the lower floor outdoor unit goes up, and it gets, so it is always more than the ambient. So these also has to be told to the end customer, and then only it will help. But again, just to repeat, he must feel that my electricity bill has gone down by so much.
That's worth a lesson, Mr. Jitendra. Mr. Sharad, coming to you, you were talking about the sustainability aspects and design aspects in commercial buildings and various designings. So what evolving market trends do you see for predictive maintenance or the sensors or data analytics in HVACR systems?
Like we have already discussed about choosing the right solution. So in the OpEx, the maintenance perspective, or the repair cost has to be included. And right now there are solutions which are less, considering the maintenance cost. Only thing is, in the market, AHRI is certified in each and every chiller. Like if I talk about particularly one segment, the vapor compression cycle systems. So AHRI is certifying chillers. But if I talk about particular Indian market, in India, there is no certification for VRF, which is being consumed in a very high amount in India. That is going to be installed day by day in a augmented manner in the market. But there is no certification for that product. I mean, I'm looking forward to have that certification for this VRF as well, like we have in chillers. So in chillers, if any manufacturer is claiming that he is going to consume this much energy to save more OpEx, that is going to happen, because that is getting that is getting being certified by third party, which is AHRI. But if we talk about VRF in split AC, there is BE who is putting some standards, BE ratings 3-star, 5-star. But in VRF, there is no rating, and that has to be taken care. Still, those products are being designed by maximum manufacturer at 35 degrees Celsius only. And surprisingly, in India, as Madhusudan told, we don't use much of AC below 35 degrees Celsius. So the basic concept is like we have to adopt that designing as well. Like the chiller, the VRF, that has to be certified by the third party to give the customer a confidence that whatever you are going to buy, that has been tested by us, and that we are giving the certification that you are going to have less power consumption when you are using it. So as a solution provider, it is our responsibility to implement those good things to the products that which will be benefited to the customer as well as to our business as well.
Thank you, Mr. Sharad, for sharing your opinion. Mr. Jitendra, would you like to add?
Yes. So just the last question which Sharad asked, Bureau of Energy Efficiency is working on the rating system for the VRFs also. It is only a question of 1 year or 1.5 years that it will be rolled out first as a voluntary and then as a mandatory thing. Today we have got standards or rated minimum efficiency standards or rating programs for room AC, deep freezers, chillers. Next that is going to come is VRFs, and followed by that will be most probably the ducted system. With this, about 9, and then followed by that will be the refrigeration equipment. So that is what Sharad. I just want to share with you that it is in the pipeline. How do we push that
Energy efficiency practices for HVAC systems? How to raise
so
awareness?
energy efficiency, how to raise awareness. So that is it is one subject which we have not spoken on is on energy conservation building code, both for commercial as well as for the residential building, which is there in place but getting adopted in different. So with that, the heat load will come down. But creating awareness, I would say, the the media use should be like on awareness programs on TV, or maybe some write-ups in newspaper, some write-ups in magazine, some tips to save energy. Those things will definitely help. We have to ensure that we reach the last user by using different methodologies.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jiten. Now, there is a question for Mr. Nabil. Does AHRI have made any standards for climate-friendly cooling, solar or structure cooling, wind or refrigerant-free, which could cut years of greenhouse gas emissions and save millions of dollars? The question is from Irfan Saeed.
Okay, thank you for this timely question. Actually, we have just formed a technical committee to develop an evaporative cooling standard. As you all know, evaporative cooling or desert coolers have been around for a long time. And in dry areas, they work very well. They drop the temperature by around 10 degrees. But there is new technology that's out there now. We have two-stage, for example, evaporative cooling systems that are much more efficient, and it consumes a fraction of the energy that's consumed by the conventional air condition. We're actually working with ISHRE in India, who has already developed this standard and will be helping us to draft this standard and make it more international and global. So yes, we are looking at this. And I just want to add a quick comment on what Sharad had mentioned about certification, which is very important. Unfortunately, sometimes manufacturers present a golden sample for testing and applying for, registering this model with the regulatory bodies in terms of energy efficiency of that unit. And what gets produced in the manufacturing facilities are normally not as good as the golden samples due to variation in manufacturing, components that they use, like compressors, motors, etc. So what ends up being sold in the market is units that are less efficient than what is on the catalog data. Of course, this happens, again, not intentionally sometimes, but it's important to have a surveillance program, because we did one example here in the Middle East where in the first year when we tested units with the government, we found out that 67% of those units failed to meet the requirement, the minimum requirement, and all the claims of the manufacturers. So it's important to have certification of third party, especially VRF, it's becoming popular. And also one quick comment on the data collection. And, a lot of companies now are becoming more popular in the region, companies that collect data from buildings, analyzing data and finding out that just by simply analyzing data, we can find out areas when we can save energy in not just residential building and commercial building, but other buildings like industrial areas, by changing some of the practices, like raising the temperature slightly, using ceiling fans, closing windows, adding insulation. So data collection is free, and the use of data to reduce energy consumption is becoming very popular and very helpful.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nabil. That was worth sharing knowledge. So lastly, one more question was there. I think Mr. Irfan would have got the answer. Mr. Jiten, you may answer this. Is there any scope of waste heat-based absorption cooling in buildings?
So waste heat-based option cooling in buildings, there's the VAM, that is vapor absorption machines, typically operate on that. They use the waste heat and to regenerate, whereby you get a cooling. But that typically you'll require a continuous source of waste heat, which is can be used and can be used for something like a district cooling. Waste heat using at a unit level, like in an apartment, will be very, very challenging. However, if we use waste heat to heat water, which will be used for either bathing or also for washing utensils or anything of that type, that will be approximately 4 times more efficient than only heating directly using the electric heating, which is electrical heating element. So how do we have these combined products will be a challenge at a residential level. At commercial complex level, specifically if we ask for in the hotel industry, it is very, very popular. It is used there. Again, one point which Nabil said, I just want to comment that the India surveillance programs is one of the stringent in the world, because they pick up room ACs from the market without telling the manufacturer, and they check, and they are authorized to publish a half-a-page newspaper ad saying such and such a brand, such and such a model has failed. And in last 10 years, about 6 to 8 such advertisement did come. So it is extremely stringent. It is like a name and shame. So in that respect, it is very, very this thing. And this is also an important aspect which the consumer should know, that what is written on the label is what I'm getting.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Jitin, Mr. Nabil, Sharad, and Mr. Madhusudan. That was quite an interesting